All right, y'all, we are back. Welcome back to Story of My Life podcast. I took a much needed break, just a little over a week over schedule. And that's just because I've had some stuff going on in my life, some shifts going on in my life. And I just wanted to be intentional about this next episode specifically. The reason why I say this one is important because this is going to basically take on a whole new direction of the podcast. And it's not because we're going to stop talking about the original content that we started with relationships and dating and stories of my personal life, but because I did tell y'all at the very beginning that I wanted to diversify the content a little bit. And when I was studying journalism in college, some of my most favorite stories I ever wrote were when I was speaking to other people about things that happened in their life. And that's kind of what this platform is supposed to be about. It's going to be about everybody's story of their life, and it doesn't necessarily only have to center around dating and relationships, although relationships are a huge part of our life, and that's kind of why this all started. But there is relationship and other things in your life other than romantic ones. So I want to give other people the opportunity to share theirs on this platform. And as I've been talking to other people and growing this community of Story of My Life, I've realized that I need to take a little bit of a pivot because there's just so much more to tell. So I'm very excited about that. That's upcoming, and thank y'all for sticking with me. Seriously, I've been watching the numbers, and people have been engaging with me on social media and in person, and it's just been such an amazing experience to know that like I am touching people. And that's what this is all about. Hopefully, I'm motivating you. Hopefully, I'm motivating you in multiple ways, more than one. And also, maybe I'm inspiring you to think about some of the things that are going on in your life. If you want to share, I've always said, reach out to me. I would love to have you on. We're just going to continue to grow here and spread the story of everybody's life. So, anyways, let's get to it. This one is called It Ends With Me. And the reason why it's called It Ends With Me is because by now y'all know the story. The most, arguably, the most important story in my life. There's a lot of crazy things that have happened to me. But I think that this past one has made its own significant impact, especially because I'm older now. And the way I'm handling things is just so much more mature, I think. I just have much more emotional maturity, a better head on my shoulders. And because of all the things that I have been through my whole life, I think that I finally just decided to say, like, this is it for me, and that's kind of why I'm naming this It Ends With Me. So I've been saying this kind of funny for like the last couple of weeks, not really realizing that this was going to be something that is really like I'm holding this really close to my heart. And it's forward thinking only. And I might have said that in a previous episode, but really that's what this boils down to is forward thinking only. We are not going to live in our past. We are not going to be defined by our past. And most importantly, we're not going to let our past define us. So let me give you guys like a slight recap, I guess. We'll do that whole previously on Katie's crazy life. But I ended the last episode with telling y'all about my move here to Nashville. And I think I mentioned that when I got in the car to drive away, it was more of a relief than pain. And I want to touch on that really quickly because that's the truth. I just felt relief. I felt ready. And that's where I think that whole idea of forward thinking only comes from because I knew that that was the right thing for me to do. And there was no looking back. And God had my back. And while I was driving away, it was like I was leaving everything in the dust. And that's what the intention was. So I might talk about it right now too. Like I feel it on my heart that like it's time to move on from this subject. Like it really is. And there's nothing else holding me down in my life right now attached to my past. And that's a beautiful thing. So thank you, God, for that. Thank you, everyone who supported me in moving on from that because over and done with. we don't need to keep talking about it. But anyways, thank you also to everybody that has reached out, because I know that story was, it was a tough one to hear, and there's so much more I could unpack with that, but I don't want to keep living there. But I know it was hard for some people to hear that kind of stuff because they care about me, but also they've been through something similar on their own. So if y'all ever need somebody to talk to about a crazy relationship or breakup or anything like that, truly anything, you can always reach out to me. I am I'm an open book. I'm saying this on camera. So no secrets over here. Um so anyways, all that to say, all of that happens. I moved to Nashville. I'm in a new city. I did talk a little bit about some of like what I was going to say in this episode about my dating experience. So we're going to kind of go through that today as well. But moving, it can be very overwhelming, starting over, new friends, new community, and then that whole element of dating. Like, obviously, what I want for the rest of my life, I want a marriage. Like, I want a husband. I want to be a wife. I want to be a mother. All of those things. And so with that comes, you got to get out there and meet people. So fun. Love that. Not really, but anyways, when I moved here, I knew I didn't want to date. Like, that wasn't on my radar at all. It was really just, let's think about Katie. Let's think about what I need to do to get myself in the healthiest place in my life. And so I kind of buckled down, put my head down, and let that be what I was doing. I stayed at home a lot and watched movies and just spent time with me and my cat. And then I decided one day, like, it was time for me to step out and be social. And ironically, the day that I went out was Valentine's Day. And of course, right? Of course. But I wasn't taking that to heart at all. It was just a day to go out. And so I met up with my girlfriend, and she was having dinner. So we decided to head out after that. We went to this like rooftop bar. It's called LA Jackson. Anyone in Nashville knows exactly what I'm talking about. This was my first time there, by the way. So I was not ready to experience what I had experienced, but it was packed and crowded, and I was really out of my element, really uncomfortable. It's not that I'm like socially awkward or anything, but I wasn't ready for that. So I was kind of in a shell. I wasn't really like in the kind of mood to like get drunk and dance kind of vibes. So I put myself in that situation. I said, put yourself out there and just have a good time, whatever that means. So we walk in, and meeting some people, and I wasn't really expecting anything to happen that night, but she's from Nashville, so she knows a lot of people. And we ran into some of her friends, and we got to talking, and there was a guy there. And let me pause really quickly before I get into that. When I talk about like dating, I'm more of an in the wild kind of gal. Like, you're not going to catch me on a dating app, and that's really not because I'm like not judging people who go on dating apps. It's not for me. At the end of the day, it's just not for me. I think where my mindset was at that time still is backed by intention. And I don't think that getting on a dating app, for me, it didn't feel intentional. It felt like more of a hookup vibe, hookup culture. And I know there's some beautiful stories that have come out of that. And again, not judging, but again, just not for me. So anyways, I'm out in the wild, and I wasn't expecting anything to happen. I wasn't looking for anything. That's one thing I don't do is seek out any like relationships or any kind of like encounter with a man. I've never really been like that. So I was just trying to be there to have a good time, step out of my shell, not be in the house for a night, and ran into this guy, and it was her friend. So I was comfortable. We were all talking, and yeah, we're gonna call him Tim. And the reason why his name is Tim is because I kind of call him the ideal man. But obviously we're not together, so there's a reason why I chose that particular name. Ideal because he was at that time. He was ideal from the beginning. He was super intentional from the moment we talked. And we kind of talked all night, and it was nice because I didn't felt like this weird pressure. Like, we're going out and there's this like there's also hookup culture attached to going out, and I was not on that vibe whatsoever. So it was cool because we literally just yapped all night long. And that was something that I needed. I feel like it was a healing moment for me to have a conversation with a man that like it wasn't uncomfortable, it wasn't weird, no weird vibes were had or anything like that. Um, and it was just a good night. So, anyways, we stayed connected, got each other's number, and he asked me out. At that time, I'll be completely honest with you, I knew I wasn't ready, but I told myself I needed to step out of the bubble, and I had already done that by going out. So now I met this person and he was trying to be super intentional and take me on a date. Mind you, he knew my whole story and like I think he knew I wasn't ready, but he still tried. The effort was there. So I gave that to him. We had a good night. We went and got sushi and then met up with the girls after. Uh ironically back at LA Jackson. As time went on, we talked more and more, and I realized like we have a lot in common. There was a lot of commonalities there. We had great conversation, things flowed. Um, but this particular time was really crucial for me because I was walking in my faith more than I ever had my whole life, and I had just gotten baptized a month or so prior to that. This was now mid to end of February, and I had gotten baptized on January 1st. So I've had all of these um intentional like things that I was doing with my life to stay grounded in my faith. And part of that was like, I didn't want to go out and seek a man at all. But like I said, I wanted to step out of my bubble and he was being intentional. So I said, okay, it's the date. And we had a good time. Um, After that, we had a lot of conversations about faith and God and all of those things that like shifted in my life. And he texted me and was like, "Can I go to church with you? Because I would really like to like get back into church." And I will never ever say no to somebody who wants to go to church. That's not my house to rule. I don't get to lock the door or I don't have the access code. Like everybody's welcome. And I thought it was really amazing that he heard me while I was saying that I was super grounded in my faith and my intentions were super pure when it came to that. And he wanted to get involved and kind of put himself out there too. Again, I would never say no to somebody who wants to seek that out. So he went to church with me and we ended up having lunch after with my sister and my girl that introduced us. And it was a good time. But I think somewhere in that time period, I knew that like this wasn't something that I wanted to pursue romantically. Um, I already have been through enough when it comes to relationships that I knew like it's not time for like I'm never gonna force feelings that just aren't there. So like, yes, you want to go to church with me, that's amazing. You wanted to take me out on a date, that's amazing. We had good conversation, yes. But I didn't think that there was gonna be much more that came from that. I also just was not ready. Um, I want to pause right there really quick because something that I'm struggling with, and I want to admit this, is that I am an avoidant in some ways. I have a really, really hard time saying exactly how I feel when I know it's going to hurt somebody's feelings. And there's no perfect way to frame telling somebody you're just really not interested like that. But I didn't really feel like the conversation needed to happen right away because there really wasn't a lot of pressure around that. But I felt pressure on myself because I didn't want to lead anybody on. And I knew that my focus was like in a completely different spot. Um, so that was really hard. But I think that what it boiled down to was like we had good conversation. I wasn't going to stop that. But I knew that I needed to eventually tell him how I really felt. And that conversation did end up happening. Obviously, we're not together or anything. We're cordial. Like we don't, there's no ill will whatsoever. And that's something I want to talk about later in the episode that um, it doesn't always have to be like this end result where things blow up and it goes bad. And I think this is the lesson out of this for me is like, it also doesn't always have to work out. So it's just been really nice that I haven't had to encounter an experience where things have gotten rocky just because I didn't want to be with this person. Um, so this was probably like middle of March, and all these feelings started to like come up. So we had been talking for like, I don't know, a couple of weeks, spaced out too. Like it wasn't anything crazy. Um, but I knew all my girlfriends were coming into town for my birthday, which was at the end of March. So I had a whole like packed itinerary. Like I was gearing up for all of them to come. I hadn't seen a lot of these girls in a while. These are my Florida friends from moving when I was living in Florida, and some of my closest friends, my close best friend actually from college came too, which was amazing. And I just wanted to have a weekend about me. But it was my birthday, and he actually reached out and was like, I want to take you to dinner for your birthday. So I allowed it to happen. And I think that day I started to feel guilty because I was like, okay, I know that he's like really putting in effort right now. And this is just not something that I actually know that this isn't going to go anywhere. So at that point, I knew we needed to have a conversation. Um, but again, my girls were in town, and I was like, I'm just going to focus on this. So they all get here. Like I said, we had a full packed itinerary. As soon as they all came in, like we get ready to go out. We have dinner, and we're going to go out and get some drinks and have ourselves a girl time. They set up my whole apartment. It was so cute. Like it was amazing. It was honestly one of the best birthdays I've ever had. So I wasn't thinking about anything outside of that. So anyways, we go out, and my girl Jill, like she's a spunky girl, that's for sure. And I again, my mind was on the girls. Like I wasn't thinking about anything else. And she apparently runs into this guy. They were ordering drinks, and goes, I think I have somebody that you would like. And she brings him over to where we were all sitting. And I was like, oh gosh, here we go. And I mean, he was good looking. Like we had good conversation. We were laughing, all having fun. And I had zero plans to meet somebody that night. But she brought him in my space, and we we definitely hit it off for a minute there. We exchanged numbers, and then for some reason we ended up at the same bar after that place. And it's just kind of like interesting how that happened because I think it was plotted, honestly. But whatever. Nonetheless, we ended up hanging out there. We were all hanging out together, him, his friends. We were laughing all night, having a good time. And then I walked away from it, not thinking anything was going to happen because it was just a night out. And like, who really cares? Just a night out. But we texted for a few days, and it was like very casual conversation. I didn't think much of it. Honestly, it was like in the back of my mind, like nothing's going to come out of this. But again, stepping out of my bubble, and just like allowing this to happen, because these are experiences that I felt like I needed to go through. Like, how am I supposed to move on if I don't actually move on? Um, and it was really like interesting because I know in that time, this is something you should never ever do. Like, never use somebody as a tool or a lever to be like, okay, now I know I am ready to move on from this other person. Like, that's not fair. But I was trying to find clarity in these experiences. Ultimately, the clarity for me, and let me be very firm about this, was just that these were not the guys for me. But having these experiences made me realize, like, I guess what I wanted moving forward in a new relationship. Um, but he was, anyways, we were texting, and he was like asking to hang out, or like subtly dropping things about hanging out. And I was like, listen, if you want to hang out with me, you're going to have to take me out on a date. Like, that's just the only way you're going to have my time. Um, so he did. He set it up. We went out, and he toured me around East Nashville, and we had a really great time. I mean, there was nothing negative about that. And I definitely can't look back and say that wasn't, um, I don't regret any of that. But yeah, I think when I look back at it now, I'm like, okay, I put my time, I put my energy into it. It was okay. It was just an experience, between the both of them. And now I mean, knowing that it didn't work out, I mean, we're obviously not together or anything. Um, I don't think that I could have gone about these situations any differently. I think it was okay for me to experience it the way that I did. But I do think that there was a part of me that knew that this wasn't really what I should have been doing. But they were being super intentional, and I just kind of wanted to lean in. I mean, all my friends were like, Katie, just give it a chance. Like, stop thinking so much about this. Just like allow it to happen. You need to move on. You need to heal. And so that's what I did. And there's no negative things that I can say about these two guys. But um again, obviously it didn't work out, and that is for a good reason. So this other guy, we're gonna call him Mr. Confusing. And he wasn't confusing at first because, one date turned into another hang, and then we talked on the phone a couple of times. Great conversation. He picked me up from the airport when I got back from a trip in April. And then we had dinner, and naturally, like, I was like, okay, we're spending all this time together. Like, where is this supposed to go from this point on? I told myself, if you're going to start dating, like, you need to date with intention, because I'm not about to just be out here giving my time away when my time needs to be dedicated to me. And me dating with intention felt the urge to ask, like, where is this going to go? And this is where he earned his name, Mr. Confusing, because there were too many conversations consisting of I don't know. And then we went on a lunch date that, like, it just abruptly turned into like our last conversation, really. And I'm going to spare the details because even playing this back in my head, I'm like, it really shouldn't have been this hard. But I realized I liked both of these guys because they brought something completely different to the table. There was intention, yeah, in a lot of ways. But like I said, this version of healthy behavior that I never experienced. Confusing, yeah, but there was communication paired with that, which again wasn't something I have experienced. I mean, healthy communication at that. One thing that really stuck out to me is that we talked about God, like both of these or I wouldn't even say relationships, but experiences, we talked about God. I motivated them into church, and they motivated me to pray more intentionally. And we talked a lot about what we learned in church, and like, you know, we're trying to be more inspiring with each other in that regard. And I think that um that was like a really important element to it. Another reason why I was like, okay, like this is okay because they are fueling what I am like actively working through right now. So this is okay. Um, but I think ultimately I knew that it wasn't going to work out. And I feel like God was saying, like, hey, Katie, here's some examples of what healthy men in your life feel like. They aren't going to be here forever, but I want you to lean in so you can come closer to my plan for you. And it sounds bizarre because, like, why waste my time? But I think the moral of this all is that God is always right on time. Anyways, after this, I was just like, okay, Katie, let's just chill on the guy thing, focus on friends, and that's it. So that's what I did. I pretty much cut everything off before summer, and just decided to have a good summer by myself. I mean, with my friends, and I was just wanting to not really care about dudes. Like, honestly, it's so exhausting because, like, these were empty conversations. Well, those ones weren't, but like, if I'm out and I'm meeting somebody, like, it's really an empty conversation. Like, I'm not gonna say, like, I've talked about this before. It's not that like you can't meet a good guy at a bar or out, especially because I say, like, I'm out in the wild, like, looking for not on dating apps, at least. And I don't know, just something about that time. I was just like, I got to take a step away. Like, this is not serving me. I don't want to do this anymore. And part of me, I feel like I was getting irritated too because I'm like, okay, these things didn't work out for me. Like, is it ever going to work out? Blah, 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 blah. Like, feeling down on myself. And that was just silly. Like, it was just silly. It was a silly mindset to be in. And I'm glad I had those experiences. I'm glad I met those two guys, but I'm also glad that, like, I moved on from that because it gave me all of this space to just be with me and be with friends and be intentional about that. Um, and during that time while I was focusing, some other great men walked into my life, and my boundaries and my expectations for myself were so prominent that being friends with me was okay for them. Like, I think I found so much value in myself that not every single encounter with a man had to be romantic. And they knew that too. First of all, I was very clear with that from the beginning, but I am proud of myself for that because it doesn't have to be that way. I'm sorry, you don't have to meet a guy and it has to be something like just because you're a man and I'm a woman and like whatever, like that doesn't mean anything. And I'd like to say that that boils down to like this aura or this energy that I was putting off, not like being a brat about it and being like, I'm not going to waste my time on you type of behavior. But like, I'm so focused on everything else that I have going on that like, this is just not on my radar. And I prayed on that a lot. I really did. I was like, okay, so maybe if I just take this time for myself, like I'll be able to rediscover Katie's value. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, I locked in, I started my podcast, I got another job. I started branching out and like meeting these really quality people in my life, new friends and new just like experiences that really validated these choices that I was making. Um, I think it's really important to say that because I set the standard for myself and it showed by how just people were treating me. And like, that's what you want. You want to respect yourself so much that people have no choice but to respect you. And if they don't respect you that much, like you respect yourself enough to say bye. And something that I've really learned is that when you create boundaries in your life, that pairs with loss. And whether or not that's in a dating romantic relationship and you say like this is not what I want for myself, this doesn't match up with my ideas and intentions, or even with friendships, you sometimes lose people and that sucks. It really sucks so bad. But at the end of the day, you're in it for the betterment of yourself, and that's what matters. So anyways, about a month ago, no, it was a little over a month ago because all of this kind of shifted for me towards the beginning of summer. I locked in, and then about a month ago, I was like, okay, I'm really going to be intentional about not dating at all. I mean, like, I don't even want to consider a conversation. And that's just purely because I knew this was a season that I needed to really focus. Um, and I was like, non negotiable. This is what's happening. Don't even put yourself in those situations. I don't even want to go out and like be in that kind of social environment anymore. I sat in my car and I remember having this conversation with God. It was like it was a conversation and a prayer at the same time. And I was like, okay, I hear you. Like I get it. You know, like we've had this conversation a couple of times and I've listened to you and I pulled back, but I want you to know that my intention now moving forward is that I'm done and that's it. Like I'm cool. I'm good. I'm going to focus on me. And next year I turned 30. Year 30 was going to be it's going to be a big year for me. Like I wanted to gear myself up, set myself up for that right now. And so we talked about that and we, I, I thought we had an agreement. I really did. It was me, podcast, gym, career, church, friends, family. That was it. And I was rocking, man. I was doing a good job. And like I said, this was like a little over a month ago, and I set some like rules and expectations for myself. I was going to stop cussing, like pull back on the drinking, like save more money, do all these things. I got goals for myself to tone up in the gym, hit a certain weight, all of these things. And I'm like, ha ha ha. Yes, God, I heard you. I'm doing this. And the funny thing about having a conversation with God is that he doesn't directly talk back to you. That can be really frustrating for some people. Um, you think in your mind, you're like, yes, I hear you. I got all the validation I need. And he's really not saying anything. You're just telling yourself that in your head. You're hearing it in your you're hearing it, but you're like, okay, you're saying it out loud. And then it's like, okay, we've come to an agreement, right? Cool. You and me, we're in this together. God is really funny, you guys. It really is. Um, the craziest relationship I have ever had in my life. He has the most insane sense of humor because just when I was content with my choices, he was like, hold on now, Katie. I was just waiting for you to clear the path because I got something else brewing for you. And it just makes me laugh when I'm saying this out loud. I was writing this down and it was flowing really smoothly, but now that I'm talking about this out loud, it's making me laugh a little bit because it's just like, gosh, you are hilarious. And the crazy thing is, it's like he was like, I have something brewing for you. When I say when I say something good, you guys, I mean great. Like it great is the word for this. I'm like shell shocked, honestly. I think everything that I thought that I wanted, um, and more, I did not know was about to pop into my life. And there's no, I could have sat there for so long and been like, hey, I want this. These are all my criteria and expectations for being in a relationship. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen. I also could have said, this is my timeline. This is when I want this to happen. And that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen either because it's not on my timeline. It's not on my plan. I don't get to make those decisions. And this is just the funniest thing because, yeah, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down right now, there's a man in my life and he came out of left field for sure. Um, I don't want to be delusional about this. God's timing is crazy. It really is. Because I'm gonna keep going back to this. I was like, I am done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. And this could have just been another experience, could have just been another lesson. But I am gonna take a stop in Lululand really quick and just let you know this person very well could be the end for me. Not the end like that, but the one for me. Um, this story is still in motion, so I'm not gonna spill too much, but I feel this one in my bones. I've talked about this a couple of times, that gut feeling. It's not, this isn't gut. This is like heart. This is a heart feeling because I'm calm here. Like I'm light here. I feel very collected and confident. And this one deserves all the TLC that I built up over time, making myself right and myself healthy. And it's strange how that happens because you take a step back and you make space for what you were maybe trying to force for so long. And granted, all of your experiences are just lessons, yes. Uh, but I promise you, I was being intentional when I said, I'm cool, I'm done. I knew I wanted to reshift my focus for some time. But this one seemed like it came in for a particular purpose. So I'm holding this one close. I'm praying on it every day. And when I talk about timing, you know, God is always on time. He's doing this for a reason for me right now, and I'm listening. So don't be surprised if I come back here and tell y'all next time. Maybe not next time, but I'm gonna let this one brew because, like I said, I want to put all the TLC into this. I really do. But do not be surprised if I come back here and tell y'all I have a boyfriend. And I'm promising you right now, I am dating to marry. So if I have a boyfriend, we're we're closer than anything else I've ever had. Uh, so this is crazy to talk about this because I know he's probably going to listen to this. And this is one of those things I'll probably look back on and be like, girl, you were so in your head and you were talking about that. But I hope it's like you can see this genuine smile. My heart is like literally beating right now talking about this. Because I'm telling you guys, this has been so amazing. And it's, I mean, we put in some work, we put in some time. We really have. And a lot of it's been super intentional too. Like, we don't even live in the same space right now, but that's definitely praying on that to change. Okay. Um, and yeah, I'm not going to tell y'all everything because I want to save it. I really do. I want to keep this one close to me. I really do. But that's kind of why I'm calling this episode It Ends With Me, because I have to stop the cycle. I have to stop and say, like, Katie, it's time to really move on with that forward thinking. And I'm not saying this because I now have this beautiful man in my life. But I'm saying this because all the things that I have talked to you about before, um, I had to tell myself that was it. No more. We're not going to do this. We're going to be intentional. We're going to hold value. We're going to hold respect for ourselves, myself, and what's meant for you will come in God's timing. And that's exactly what it did. So I really hope I don't come back here later and say something happened. And if it did, I know like everything's going to be okay. But I'm going to be honest with y'all. I don't think that's going to be the case here. Um, but maybe I'm just manifesting that right now that yeah, this will be where it ends. It's going to end with me, and I'm starting anew. I've said this several times. There's no more next chapter. This is a whole new book. I'm a new renewed Katie, and I think that's why God was like, here you go. Like, let me just give you this amazing person because you're amazing and you deserve that. And yeah, I'm gonna hold this one real close, you guys. I really am. Um, so anyways, you're gonna want to stay tuned because he's very aware that this is where we talk about this kind of stuff. Maybe I'll have him on here one day. You never know. Um, but yeah, like I mentioned at the very beginning, we're gonna switch up the content a little bit, and I'm gonna have a guest on here next episode, and we're gonna talk a little bit about something different, a story that made her who she is, gave her the life that she has. It is a beautiful story, and she is a beautiful person. She, first of all, she's one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen physically, but inside, I'm just so grateful to have met her. So I'm so excited to share that story with you. And we'll probably, yeah, a little bit about other stuff, spill some tea, that's what we're here for. But thank you guys for all the support so far. I really appreciate it. And my story is just one of, I'm sure, so many people can relate to. And like I said, if you ever want to share yours, please, please let me know and we can get on here and talk. I've said this so many times, and this is completely forward thinking only. We are going to move towards a new. We're going to start fresh. We are going to just clear mind, clear headspace. We're not going to hold on to any resentment. We're going to love and be intentional the way that we want to be treated. If there's anything I live by is a golden rule: treat others the way that you want to be treated, and that's hopefully the space that I'm creating for you guys here. And I love each and every one of you. And I'll see you next time.